sounds good.
We're in the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. This is the 505 horsepower Ferrari-powered 2.9 liter SUV that they make. We're going to go for a fun launch on our spot here, guys. Hope you enjoy it, just so you can see what this thing does and how it sounds. I got to say, I like it. Are you ready? Let's go. Wow. You really got to watch first gear. That's 100. I mean, man, this thing is fast. Now, I will tell you, the very, very bottom of first gear, you don't have a lot of get up and go. But once you hit about 2,500 RPMs, man, this thing comes to life. You do got to watch first gear, though, man. You hit first gear fast, so we probably should have done that in automatic mode to get that off-the-line performance. But, wow, this thing is smokes, guys. Hope you enjoyed the content as always. Really enjoyed it. Just a cool piece of kit right here. What's going on, guys? My name is Adam. Welcome back to Driven Productions. It's actually a beautiful day here in August. Believe it or not, I'm not going to be completely dying on camera today. However, we've got something extra cool today. I'm really excited about this one, you know, because it's different. How many times do you see an Alfa Romeo on the road? Very rarely, especially a Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Now, if you happen to be living under a rock and you're just not familiar with what in the heck this is, we're going to enlighten your consciousness today. I'm going to be bringing on Kyle here from Mr. Trekho. He's one of my all-time favorite people in the Nashville car community here. He's going to be talking about his experience, the good and the bad with this car. So that way, if you're looking to buy one of these, you can actually learn a little bit more and see if it's the right move for you. Now, these were about 80,000, 90,000 with the right specs and combinations if you got the carbon ceramic brakes or you got the carbon seats and whatnot. Now, this one is about a $50,000 to $45,000 car as it sits, so it's depreciated now, and it's a lot of car for the money, guys. 2.9 liter twin turbo V6 engine that Ferrari makes, 505 horsepower. 505 horsepower, 443 foot-pounds of torque, and an 8-speed ZF transmission. Guys, this thing goes to 60 in 3.6 seconds, which you probably saw in our launch. It's pretty solid. And believe it or not, you actually get a pretty good fuel economy, and you get a really good exhaust note and all those other things that we're going to be spotlighting today. So let's get into this one. I'm going to bring Kyle on because I know you want to hear from the owner anyways. If you like the content, like and subscribe. We do this every single week, and let's get into the next clip. All right, Kyle. Man, thanks for being on camera today.
Thanks for letting me be on camera.
Dude, I love it, man.
Awesome.
This is so cool. I love this thing. So, you've had a little experience with Stelvios, yeah? This is your second one.
This is my second Stelvio. We've been in an Alfa Romeo for 3 years now.
Okay, so tell the folks, how's it been?
Yeah, it's been wild, man. We started in the 4-cylinder Stelvio, which was fun, right? We went into an Alfa Romeo because it's just different. You don't see them everywhere. You see Porsches everywhere. You see Jaguars everywhere. We wanted something that looked different. So we landed on the Stelvio, started with the 4-cylinder. It was fun, but it wasn't everything, right? So we decided to up it to this 2.9, and it's a blast. Every time I put my foot in the gas, I remember why we bought this thing. Yeah, super fun car.
You know, it really does punch above its weight class. I think this is actually the fastest production SUV in its class.
Yeah, some would argue that. Yeah, I'll leave those arguments to the smarter people. All I know is I hit the gas, I smile, and it's fast.
What has been the problems with this thing? Like, what has gone right? What has gone wrong?
She has got some Italian personality about her. So we name all of our cars. This car is named Kimi. After Formula One driver Kimi Räikkönen. Okay. Right? Kimi Räikkönen has personality, he has talent, he has ability, but he has attitude too. And this car is full of temperamental attitude. You just never know when you flip it on what light's going to come up on the dash, what little issue's going to trigger. It's all been super easy to fix, but there have been some mechanical, electrical stuff with this that just, it's a nuisance from time to time.
Yeah, so have you had a good experience with Alfa Romeo?
Yeah, as a whole, you know, Carlock, Alfa Romeo, their service center has been amazing. Okay. They communicate, they're great to work with, they take care of the car like it's their own. Yep. But it's up there a lot. This is the only car that I've owned that's been in a service center as much as this car has, with just little oddities.
Okay, so what's some of the last oddities you've had? Do you recall?
Yeah, we've had two quasi-major ones. One was an oil leak. It was a gasket that was off that they got in there, replaced the gasket and
was that after an oil change or just random?
No, it was actually when I bought it. So I bought it, brought it home, looked at the block, saw some oil on the block, and I'm like, well, she's Italian. That's normal. Right? Took it to Carlock. They were able to diagnose it. They don't know the issue behind it. They don't know what caused it. But
just a gasket.
Yeah, just a gasket.
So that's an easy fix.
Yep. Not too long ago, fired it up, got some white smoke. Out of the tailpipes, which scared me, right? White smoke, typically coolant, had a sweet smell. And then the car wouldn't stay on. So every time I'd turn it on, it would power right off. Turned out to be a bad plug on cylinder 1 that was shutting down a fuel rail, that was causing a bad mix, that was causing smoke. We resolved that.
Wow.
About a month later, same plug went bad again.
That left you stranded, I assume.
That I was at home, had to tow it. Thankfully, I was in my own driveway.
Yep.
So we towed it back to Nashville, had them take a look at it, go through it. The plug was the only thing that was coming back on it. That same plug went bad again about 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Same exact symptoms, smoke, wouldn't stay running.
Damn.
Changed the plug again, and now we're running again. So we'll see.
Same plug twice. So
I'm telling you,
have an issue.
that is why Kimi Räikkönen, temperamental, moody, burns things up, hothead.
Wow. So that's always in the back of your mind though when you turn this thing on and you drive it.
It is, yeah. Every time I climb in it, it's kind of this feeling of what am I going to experience this time? There have been a lot of moments of regret when we're sitting at home and like, should we have bought this car? Because it can be fear-inducing and a headache. Right. But every time I get in it and it is running,
it's great.
And I put it in race mode and I pop it over to use the paddles, I'm like, this is why we tolerate this. This is why we put up with this.
You know, if you were being honest though, it sounds like would you still get it again? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah, it's a really challenging question. We bought this car because it's a tool and we wanted to connect with people. And we know that the more unique the car and the more power it generates, the more people are compelled by it, right? And there's really not another car that generates the power this does, that has the looks this does, in the price range that it is. So I would have to say we would do it again because the purpose is being filled with it, which is community. We're all about connecting with people, and this car is our ability to connect with people.
Yeah.
So I think we would do it again.
Yeah, Kyle's very active in the Nashville car scene, guys. He's always at all the events. He's just a really good guy. He's got his son there. He's a photographer. He's always taking pictures and stuff. His wife as well. So just a really good family man, and I respect that.
Yeah, thanks for
another
that.
family man.
So I Venmo you how much for those compliments?
Hey man, anything we can take is going to Brian anyway.
Right.
So. This is a car you probably don't want to own after warranty. Now, you were just telling me you have the Mopar because Stellantis bought Alfa Romeo recently from Fiat Chrysler, right? So what does the Mopar warranty really mean, and do you recommend people get it?
Yeah, like it's basically a Chrysler warranty, right? Any Chrysler product you go and buy, they will offer you an actual manufacturer warranty. So it's not a third-party warranty. It's directly through Chrysler Mopar. So we bought an extended powertrain warranty on this. It's good for 6 years, 60,000 miles.
Okay.
And it covers all the mechanicals. So it gives a lot of peace of mind. Again, we tapped out on what we could afford in a car like this. So we can't afford to blow a motor or blow a turbo or drop a transmission. So it just gives some peace of mind that we can drive it hard, we can enjoy it, we don't have to baby it.
Right.
But if something significant goes awry, we're covered. It's a simple $200 deductible on it, on any instance. And yeah, it's been good. It's brought some peace of mind with
Sounds like it's come in handy
nature.
a few times.
Yeah, it has.
Lately, especially.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but no other issues. So you've just had the coil and the spark plug, oil, something like that go, and that's it? No other
spark
brakes,
plug,
transmission?
Now, the only issue has been with the spark plug and, again, the oil leak. And I think the oil leak might have come from the belt service. Okay. So one of the maintenance things on this car is they have to change the accessory belt every 30,000 miles, I think is the suggested. To do that, they have to pull the bumper, they have to pull the radiator, they have to pull the airbox, they have to pull both turbos. Then you can change the belt.
Wow.
Think about it. This is a $20 belt that costs like $2,700 to change. Damn. So I think some of the fitment didn't get back right in that belt service and created the leak. So maintenance is a big deal on this. They cost a lot to maintain.
$2,700 belt service.
Brakes, mind you, you mentioned these were not carbon ceramic brakes. Brakes, rotors, and pads on all four corners, $6,700. It is an expensive vehicle to keep in the garage. Oil changes around $350, so everything's at a premium on this.
Fuel economy, it's been good?
I mean, I keep it in race mode. That's the only mode that exists to me, so it's not great. I would say in race mode I'm averaging 12 to 13.
Okay.
Not terrible, but that's a lot of highway, a lot of just hitting my speed and
12
sticking
to 13,
with it.
And it runs on premium naturally.
Yep, runs on premium. Okay. It does have 4 driving modes. It's got the economy mode, which, I mean, I could get 25, 30 average in economy mode, but what fun is that? Right? You don't buy it to drive in economy mode.
And one thing I noticed, it has this DNA mode, right? So A is like cylinder deactivation, N is like natural or normal mode, and then D is dynamic, but you don't hear the opened exhaust in anything but race.
Correct.
Which I think is kind of interesting on this car.
Model Stelvios, the exhaust valves also open up in dynamic mode, but in 18, they didn't. I don't know why they didn't. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, because the exhaust sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's right.
And you really only hear the backfires on upshifts. I noticed.
There's no crackle when you let out of the gas, but when you shift, you get a nice little burp with each shift.
About what you liked and what you maybe have had issues with when it comes to the interior.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, aesthetically, it's just a nice car to sit in it. When you sit in it, you see the carbon, you see the leather, it's got the Alcantara on the steering wheel and the seats, and it just feels nice. Unfortunately, the interior doesn't carry through as you're driving. There's just a lot of rattles and a lot of vibration noises inside of it. When you're in race mode, the suspension stiffens up, so everything is rigid and you just get a lot of noise, in particular out of the cup holder area and the center console area. And the other modes, dynamic, natural, it's a little smoother because the suspension is softer, but it is a bit noisy. Infotainment on this, in 2018, the Stelvio had 2 different infotainment trims. One did not have Apple CarPlay, one did have Apple CarPlay. My first Stelvio did not have Apple CarPlay, and it was just no fun. You need Apple CarPlay in these days. This one has Apple CarPlay, but it does not have a touchscreen. So all you have is a little dial in the middle that spins.
Interesting.
That makes it kind of quirky. Now that I've gotten the hang of it, it's kind of nice that I don't have to lean up and touch the screen when I'm driving. I can keep my hand in a natural position and navigate it, but not having a touchscreen sometimes is a disadvantage as well. So the paddles are great, good large paddles. They don't spin with the steering wheel, so they're always in the place that you know that you want them. Pretty simple display, nothing crazy or fancy.
They have the analog gauges here, and it's not all TFT screens, which is nice.
Yeah, I do too. It gives me a little more security too. One less electronic component to go out. I did forget to mention that. There was one time when I lost all display in here. Car was still running, but I lost my center LCD and all electronics, and it was out for about a day, and then decided to come back on. But that is Italian quirks.
There you go.
Again, that's why this car is named Kimi Räikkönen.
You love the start-stop button here as well. It's very Ferrari-ish. Its steering wheel is really good on this car. I like the use of Alcantara and leather, and just good looking. Overall, I think your spec is fantastic. Nice leather here, stitch line, carbon fiber inlay. This color red's great. It's held up really well over the years. I love the panoramic roof, and you've got a sunroof as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You want to fire it up for people real quick? So, starts up pretty quiet actually. Doesn't sound like a 500 horsepower supercar, right?
Cold starts are a little bit louder. On a cold start, the valves are actually open, so you'll get a nice little burp, and then they'll close back out to the default mode.
This sounds like a 6 right now, though. When you turn into race mode, does it punch up a little bit? As far as the, yeah, wow, it really does open up. Best race experience with shifter and manual. That is a fun little note they put. I saw that on all the other reviews. So give it a little rev for the folks here. Wow, that sounds good.
It's not bad.
That sounds pretty throaty. It's got a rasp to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to cover real quick is, Alfa has a lot of history with their cars. If you're not sure, this is what dictates the Quadrifoglio. So if you see a Giulia and it's got this little 4-leaf clover symbol on it, that's going to dictate that it's got the V6 with the souped up engine, right? 1923 was one of their 4 racing car drivers, and to bring him good luck, he actually hand painted a 4-leaf clover on his car, and I guess that went on to help him win the race. So it just kind of stuck with the brand now. All their high-performance cars now wear the badge. There's also a lot of history of the Alfa Romeo logo, if you want to go on their website and read about that as well.
All right, guys, we are driving the Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Right now, I'm just starting out here in N mode, which is basically normal mode, okay? You're talking, you can just hear there, that's the lane keep system, so it's just gonna beep at you. Now, it's got obviously race mode, but I just kind of want to see how it drives in this normal mode right now. I can tell you that it still feels like a performance car even in normal mode, but the steering is definitely not as heavy. I can also tell you that the sound of the engine and the exhaust is much more subdued than when it is in race mode. This is definitely a comfortable daily driver. I think you can have an absolutely great time just taking this to work. You do hear a little bit of road noise, but this is a pretty good road. We're about to go down a road here that is not as good, and you'll probably hear the tires a little bit more. But overall, I think as a daily driver, this is very nice. Boy, I do tell you what, the brakes though, they definitely feel like performance brakes. There's no doubt about that. Let's enough with normal mode, as Kyle said earlier. Let's put it in race mode. So immediately you feel the downshift of the engine. It's a lot louder now. The shifts are pretty violent in race mode. Like, you definitely know you're shifting gears. It's not a PDK where it's butter smooth, but it's kind of fun. I actually would grow to, I think, enjoy shifting this car at race mode or race, inspired mode, whatever they want to call it. It's always fun to have an SUV that even has a race mode, It's just, what a world we live in, right? I always review these high-powered SUVs these days. I've done the Urus, right? And we're about to do the SQ8, and we've done, of course, all the fun electric cars, and it's just amazing how fast these SUVs can go. We did the Rivian the other day, and it went to 60 in 3 seconds. It's just ridiculous. But I gotta be honest, this feels like a sports car. There's virtually no give in the steering wheel. So if you slightly go to the right or slightly go to the left with the wheel, you feel the whole car react to that input. In a lot of ways, it feels like the sports car. This makes me want to actually drive the Giulia now, just to kind of see how similar they are. All the reviewers have said that this drives more like a car than any other SUV they've ever reviewed. I could actually see that because it just feels like a fun little hatchback, and it feels light and nimble. 4,300 pounds never felt so light, right? And yeah, you sit up like an SUV, but in the end of the day, I'm taking some of these turns here, and it just feels flat, almost like it's got a bunch of batteries at the bottom. But there's maybe a half a second of hesitation in the turbo spool, and as we come around that turn, very, very impressive, guys. There's a lot of power that this car is putting down. In frankly, many ways, it's probably too much for the street. Like every modern car we review, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing's underrated. It feels like 500 foot-pounds of torque and about 550 horsepower. That's just my honest opinion, guys, of having driven so many cars. Especially with 4,300 pounds, this thing really moves. As we roll on to some of my favorite back roads here. Brakes are strong, guys. Really, really strong. Oh. It's all-wheel drive, but in a lot of ways it has definitely a rear bias. You can feel that. He was complaining about the rattling. I'm not hearing any rattling in this car currently, so it's not as bad as you may think. So if you're in race mode and you're having some fun like we are here, I wouldn't worry too much about the interior rattling. I think that's probably mostly going to come on a bumpy road when you're just, trying to have a conversation with your wife. Who wants to do that? No, let's go ahead and have some fun, right? And take some turns and roll through the gears like we're doing. That's why you're gonna buy this car. This is the enthusiast daily driver, right? I don't really see the soccer mom of the world buying an Alfa Romeo Stelvio, right? Especially a Quadrifoglio. I'm telling you, I'm having a good time here. It's amazing. It's so flat. Oh, God, this thing has so much power. Get out of here. That's insane. Wow. Really, really drives fast, guys. This is a very, very capable car. I feel a lot of turbo lag, and it's incredible that Ferrari has been able to engineer this engine to have that kind of get up and go without a turbo lag, because typically when you have a small 2.9 liter engine, you have to have large turbos on it to let it spool up to give you that kind of top-end power. Somehow they figured out how to make that so you get that top-end power, but you still get virtually no turbo lag. You know, Ferrari's had the engine of the year for 4 or 5 years in a row now with the 488 that's carried on into the F8. So that same technology, you know, whatever engineering wizardry they're doing with their power plants is absolutely in this engine, guys, because God, it really, really is a fun car to drive. And I mean, I'm actually surprised there's no turbo lag. If there's one thing that I was going into this review thinking it would have, it would be turbo lag. Well, I mean, there's just no lag. And that was 2,000 RPMs. And it just goes. Now, I will tell you, I don't know if it has a light flywheel or whatnot, but it definitely revs through the rev band pretty fast. So you are going to be shifting quite a bit, which I'm okay with. You know, it shifts great. The ZF8 speed's rocking. Wow. It's fun.
Dude, it's a lot of fun.
It's a fun car. I mean, you know, this is a good time. It's putting a smile on my face. It's telling me, and feel free to walk the folks through this, but when you're in race mode, you can push this little button right here, and that's called a mid-damper.
Yeah,
right?
it just softens up. The suspension's really firm in race mode, and that just softens it up to a mid-damper. Gives you a little bit more comfortable of a ride.
I really like that. You know, and he was saying earlier on camera that, you know, when you're hearing a lot of rattles and whatnot, guys, I'll be honest with you, I can hear it a little bit like he was saying, but it's not so annoying. And even though we're in race mode and we're on some back roads here, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people think. Things that Kyle and I were just talking about, and he's still mic'd up so he can chime in here, but most of the people in the forums and the online, you know, blogs of the world that he's read have said the people that have issues with these cars are the ones that aren't actually driving them, actually revving them out and putting it in race mode and putting it in dynamic mode. So you have to understand that this is a car that likes to be driven hard. It likes to have the carbon blown out. It likes to be revved out. You know, it's built for that. And it's funny, too, because I had an old M car, and I brought it into the mechanic at BMW, and he said, guys, he said, Adam, all of the things, all of the cars, all of the issues that we have are ones that are being driven by old women who just aren't really enjoying the cars as they're intended to be. If you buy an M car, or you buy a Quadrifoglio, or you buy something, you know, that has a high horsepower engine in it, it's engineered with the cooling, and it's engineered to go and rev out and have fun. Kyle, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, both times I took it in for plug issues. The first question was, what mode are you driving in? Right? Because had I been the guy that was driving an N or an A, that could have probably been the culprit of what was going on, was I just wasn't burning out the carbon that was building up in it. So,
that's so interesting.
Driving it in performance mode is important, and they get more coming into the shop that are N and A drivers than dynamic and race mode drivers.
And you would think the opposite, right? Intuitively.
Yeah, intuitively you would think, man, if you're driving that thing hard, you're putting more wear and tear on the components, on the transmission, but it wants to be driven that way. It was engineered to drive that way, like you said.
Yep. I think that the issue with this brand is that, you know, people are afraid of it. They're afraid of the maintenance. They're afraid of the depreciation. And I honestly think that Aston Martin falls into this category right now. Beautiful cars, V12, right? Incredible values right now, especially like you get a DBS Superleggera for 200 grand. I mean, that's a $380,000 car that is amazing, right? World class in looks and performance in so many ways, but depreciates like crazy. Could be brand new with 5,000 miles on it, right? So, Kyle, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think that there is even a future for Alfa unless something changes, or even Aston? I mean, they're on the edge of insolvency, right?
Yeah, you certainly have the brand awareness and what people think of the brand, but even beyond that, when you consider this is a $50,000 car as it sits, the maintenance on it is not that of a $50,000 car. The maintenance costs are that of a luxury car, of a $100,000, $150,000 car.
Right.
So you've got people like me that buy into it at $50,000, and we just can't afford to maintain it. You can't afford the regular service. Who can afford $6,700 for pads and rotors on a car with 40,000 miles when you only paid $50,000 for the car? So things like that make it really hard for the brand to maintain value, because as it depreciates, enthusiasts can't pick them up because they can't afford to maintain them.
That's a good point. You know, are you able to source parts outside of just going directly through a dealership or Alfa? Are there any other, like Aston has AstonBits.com, right, which you can get parts through them and don't have to necessarily go through Aston? Is there anything else?
Yeah, there's a place down in Florida that I found, Top Euro, that I bought my rotors and pads through that were a fraction of the dealership price. Right, there are some quirky things with the electronics if you try to do your own brakes on this, like follow the service modes. Otherwise, you're going to freeze it up, but you can fumble through it. If a guy like me can fumble through it, I did have an amazing friend's help, but if I can fumble through it, anyone can, and that helps offset some of the cost.
Yeah, brakes are one of those things you want to do, but I bet you have to take it to the dealership for them to reset a lot of these check engine lights, right?
Yeah, if you don't do it in the right process. So thankfully we were able to get through it and not trigger the computer. A lot of guys do wind up triggering the computer when they do it. So just read the forums, see what the process is, and then follow the process.
Well, guys, if you made it this far into the video, really appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed our point of view drive so you can see what this thing does around these amazing roads here in Nashville. Keep in mind, we're over an hour outside of Nashville, which is why we're able to push the car a little bit more. We just have to worry about driveways and deers, okay? We're not here to endanger anybody's lives except our own. Now, Kyle, to sum it up for the folks, how do you want to leave them? What parting remarks can we leave people with?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to sum this car up in a couple of words, I would just say fun with attitude.
Fun with attitude.
It comes with its own attitude, it comes with its own temperament, but it is so much fun, and you tolerate the attitude for the fun. Such a unique styling about it, from the LEDs on the Stelvio to the cutouts on the hood. When you drive up, you know that it's something special. And we love that about this car because it is special to drive and it's special to own. And despite all the quirkiness, despite all of the headaches that it brings, we love that it's sitting in our driveway, and we wouldn't pick any other car to spit in its spot.
Hey, you only live once, right?
That's right.
Well, hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed hearing Kyle's thoughts. If you did, like and subscribe, drop a comment below. If you happen to be an owner of one of these and you've had an experience that maybe is different than Kyle's, let's share it so the community can learn more. But in the end of the day, appreciate you watching, and we will talk to you on the next one. Oh my God. Yeah.
There was someone crawling on the back of my arm, and
I think we're good. Let's wrap this one up because the bugs today are just ridiculous.
Yeah.